Bam! Movie magic. I'm so bored. I have taken the time to edit my Finsta videos. That's where we're at. So, I want to talk about TV before I get into this review. But to preamble it, that's not a verb, get into it first, I want to talk about my relationship with TV. I've never really been a TV person per se. Like, I have a certain number of shows that I love. When it comes to the grander scale of what's been called this golden age of television, I've never really found myself in a place where I can fall into it. I'm just trying to riff and explain, but aren't we all? Aren't we all trying to explain what we're trying to say? I promise I'm not high. And part of it too is just I have my very strong feelings towards streaming. It's not that I am like opposed to streaming existing, but it's just never really been my thing. It's always been really hard for me to watch anything on my laptop and fall into it. But so I did try, and I did get some things off. Recently, I started watching Community. Community. I've been told a few times by some really good friends of mine that it was an incredible show, and a show that I would love, given the nature of the show, given the characters in the show, and the style of humor in the show. So I was sitting on my laptop one day, and I was on Netflix, and I was like, you know what? Why not? I'll just start it. And I started watching Community. And before I even realized it, I was halfway through the show. I don't remember. It's like a big blackout in my mind, as if I had just recovered from a hangover, but a good hangover, if those even exist. I blinked my eye, and I was suddenly halfway through the entire show. I was at season 3. And I just couldn't find the willpower to stop watching it. And it was the strangest thing. Because something else about me, too, when it comes to television, sort of a pattern I've noticed within myself, I always struggle a lot to get into a show in the first season. To fall into the story and the world and the characters and all that sort of stuff. It usually takes me like a good handful of episodes before I can fall into it. But what was weird, and what's weird about this show, was that I never had that feeling of falling into it. It felt like I was already there. That might sound weird, and this is, and now I've been rambling for too long, but this is my lead-in point. Right from the start, something about the writing, the characters, clicked with me. Instantly recognizable way that felt so, close to home. That's like the best way I can describe it. And having watched the whole show, and now currently in the middle of rewatching the show, I'm like still struggling to even find the words to describe what I'm feeling with this. And I've watched, and now I watched the whole show, and I can honestly say I'm pretty sure this might just be my new favorite show. Similar to whenever I try and talk about like my favorite movie of all time, I always tend to say, as some of you will probably know, I always tend to say that Spider-Man 2 is my favorite movie of all time, because it is my favorite movie of all time. But at the same time, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie is also my favorite movie of all time. But at the same exact time, The Polar Express is my favorite movie of all time. But at the same time, you have a number of films that have really important and close to home meanings. When it comes to TV shows, there's like a handful. You have Avatar: The Last Airbender, you have The Simpsons, you have the original SpongeBob show, seasons 1 through 3, and you have Friends. Those are like How many is it? I lost count. Avatar, SpongeBob, Friends. Was that it? I feel like I said one more. Avatar, SpongeBob, Friends. Oh my god, The Simpsons! That's 4 shows. And now Community. So those are like the 5 holy grail shows in my book, at least. And it's like it's constantly cycling. Like I can't. It's literally sometimes it's like physically impossible for me to rank anything like for TV or movies, because it's like how can you rank something that literally like raised you as a kid? You know what I mean? But anyway, I'm losing track. I love this show so much. I think it is exactly what everyone has been telling me. It is absolutely brilliant. It is one of the most brilliant shows I've ever seen. I was slightly familiar with the style of the show going in because I'm a fan of Rick and Morty, and you know, the meta genre storytelling concepts from Rick and Morty are also present in Community. Going in, I was already kind of akin to Dan Harmon's style of writing. And I love Rick and Morty. I am a huge fan of Rick and Morty. But this show, what this show does that's really brilliant, that earns that label of being brilliant, is that it's incredibly clever and witty and funny in both obvious and subtle ways. And that's also like thanks to the cast, like this incredible cast balances all that humor with this really like really nuanced character development and overarching storytelling. There are some really profound things in the show that I was not expecting. Like, come from a show about a bunch of people in community college. Some of the things that stuck out to me, especially towards the end as the show was, you know, actually ending, was like the passage of time. Looking back, reminiscing on things and wishing you could go back and do things differently, but also wishing that things could stay the way they are. Kind of like that universal anxiety of things changing and having to adapt to that change. And like abuse, like childhood abuse and social anxiety, being able to convey all these emotions through these concepts and through these, and this is the thing, this is the golden standard of how to do a movie homage, blah. Because these movie homages are not done for the sake of there being movie references. They are in support of everything that's happening in the show. Whatever story's happening, they are servicing the plot, the story, and the characters, and the emotions of what's happening. They are helping to portray these emotions in ways that words could not otherwise be able to describe. That's what's really hit me. Like, there are episodes, I mean, the one that comes to mind right now as I'm saying this is Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas, which is an all stop motion episode, but it's through the perspective of Abed, who is kind of like going through something. I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, so this completely spoiler-free review. I mean, the short review is like, go watch it. It is incredible. It is brilliant. But what that episode was able to do was portray the really complex and poignant character moments and emotional like themes, ways that are never said explicitly. I mean, sometimes they are, but not, how do I say this? Like, they're not said in order to make you understand. Like, they're said once you already understand them. In other words, they're not shoving anything down your throat. They trust in the viewer that you are picking up on these things that they're communicating, and it just hits you that much harder. So, I mean, that episode is beautiful. And it's done with such a levity to it, like with such a effortlessness to it, because it's so funny. At the same time, it's so funny and just easy to watch. Like the rewatchability of this is really great. And this is the other thing about me too. I'm just kind of revealing everything about myself tonight. Once I watch a show, even if I really like it, I'll rarely want to rewatch it instantly. The only exception is Friends. As soon as I finish the show, I like instantly had that urge to rewatch it, and I did. I like instantly. I went back to season one, and I just watched the pilot, and now I'm like halfway through it again. That has never happened to me before. Like, and I'm loving it more. Like, I love it more the second time. Like, I'm noticing things that I didn't notice before. Now, and I've sort of already kind of touched on the cast, but it really goes without saying, like, everyone in this cast is just absolutely phenomenal. You have Joel McHale, you have Alison Brie, you have Donald Glover, you have Danny Pudi, you have Alison freaking Brie, Gillian Jacobs, Yvette Nicole Brown, and Chevy Chase. That is an incredible cast of actors that are all so funny and get so many times to shine. At least from the first 3 seasons. I will touch upon season 4 a little bit, but those first 3 seasons, like, everyone just had these moments, and it never felt overcrowded. It never felt one was taking the spotlight too much. And there were times where you could feel it falling into a sort of a trope, a pattern, but it would find a way to self-reference itself, make fun of itself, without ever feeling too arrogant, if that makes sense. That's something I always feel sometimes when I watch something and it tries to act self-aware, but it always comes across as like it trying so hard to please the audience, you know? Like, it's like when you come across someone who tries so hard to please people, when in reality they're an asshole. Like, you just don't like, you hate that. Like, you just, when that happens to you, you don't feel good. But that show never felt like that when it did that. It just made it feel more fresh. And it made for some even funnier jokes. My personal favorite characters, it's a little hard to rank, but if I had to, I think it would be this. Donald Glover as Troy is probably my third favorite character. Danny Pudi and Alison Brie as Abed and Annie are like a close number 2. They're like really close to number 1. Like they're basically on the same level, but number 1 just like a slight edge. Would have to be Pierce. I've always been like a huge fan of Chevy Chase in all of his classic movies, the National Lampoon films, Fetch, Caddyshack. He's just always been such a funny guy, and he had some really great character moments too. Like Pierce almost had the best character arc in the show until season 4, but like it's just such a shame that Chevy turned out to be like an asshole, because man, is he so good. I honestly looked up to him for a majority of my life. Like I would watch him on the vintage SNL skits, and the first National Lampoon's Vacation and the Christmas Vacation are like 2 of my favorite movies, and him in the show was just incredible and just one of my favorite standout characters in the whole show. But everyone is still so great. Like, at the same time, I can still say that all these people are my favorite characters. And all these supporting actors, too. You have the Dean, who ends up getting a main part on the show. Yeah, Ken Jeong. Ken Jeong is absolutely hysterical. Also, one of the standouts of the show. They didn't really figure out a way to use him properly in the later seasons, but Ken Jeong's just so funny. Like, it didn't even matter. Like, just his presence in that show was gold. It was so great. All all these characters. Garrett is one of my favorite recurring characters. Starburns, Leonard, this entire cast is great, and the production design is great. It's like so dynamic. There's so much attention to detail. Favorite episodes, like I said, I love Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas. I love the season 2 finale. Season 2, I think, is my favorite so far. Just have from rewatching it so far. I think season 2 is my favorite, but I think like my favorite episodes are tied, and they're both in season 2. I think it's tied between the 2-parter finale, that and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And I could go on about that episode on its own, but like that was some of the best television writing I've ever seen. It was the best portrayal of mental illness I've seen. Best portrayal of like someone struggling through depression I've ever seen. And it's done effortlessly. And it's done through Dungeons and Dragons without it being the butt of a joke. It's shown sincerely and honestly. And you get great like really funny moments from Pierce. I mean, he's awful in that episode, but he's still so funny. Some of the best acting from Chevy Chase, like in his entire career. I will say that was his highlight of his entire career, acting-wise, in that episode. And the balance of the humor and the, the emotional core of everything else, it's like this, I could just, repeat myself for hours and hours saying all this stuff, but, it's just so great. Season 4, losing Dan Harmon, more and more backstage drama happening. It was a very clear drop in quality, and that just kind of continued through the rest of the show. Now, I'm of the personal opinion that season 4 is slightly better than season 6. I think season 6 is my least favorite. But for very specific reasons that don't have to do with the writing or the show itself. Because the writing in the 4th season was very much not as good. It had moments, and it had episodes that could have been great, that could have been done really, really well, but just weren't. And, I mean, it was just the simple case of Dan Harmon not being there. But the thing with season 6, the reason why I consider that to be my least favorite episode is because, by that point, they had lost Chevy Chase, they had lost Donald Glover, and then they had lost Yvette Nicole Brown. That's a huge dent. Considering you had a main cast that was as airtight as it was, there's no way to go around that. For me, just had such a negative impact. But it was still not bad. It was still good television. And also, the finale, I thought, was phenomenal. Easily made up for the flaws of the season as a whole. Easily. And it wraps everything up really, really well. But at the same time, leaving things open for a movie. And it could be a great movie. This could be a great, just thinking about the way things left off, thematically, emotionally, character-wise, there has to be a movie. There has to be a movie. The only way this movie would work, in my opinion, you have to have... My camera's shaking. You have to have the whole cast come back. Donald Glover, Yvette Nicole Brown, which I'm sure they would want to. And Chevy Chase. Now that I understand is wishful thinking, because things were definitely tense from the things I've heard. I've read some of those stories, and it breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart to say that, because again, Chevy Chase was someone I looked up to as an actor. He's one of my favorite actors, of all time. But I still firmly believe that this show needs everyone to work. That felt very apparent once Chevy was the first to leave. And it just only got worse when Donald Glover and Yvette Nicole Brown left as well. So, and also to make up, because they have to, also the thing about season 4, that the big thing that I had trouble with season 4 was things that people have already said. the writing just not living up to the first 3 seasons. But they really did Pierce dirty. Pierce had some great setups for some really great, incredible redemption arc. He starts out as this old, racist, homophobic, baby boomer, old man, but then goes through these things where he grows and he learns, but then by season 4, he's just reduced back to where he was in the first season. And that's not just him, that happens to a lot of the characters. The other big example that comes to mind is the Dean. Like, the Dean was a huge victim of Flanderization. Like, the first 3 seasons, he was like a fully real, fleshed out character that was hysterical. And he still is. Like, Jim Rash is amazing, but it, like, took one aspect of him and just blew it up. I hope that if they do a movie, and they will do a movie, they have to do a movie. They have to do a movie. 6 seasons in a movie. They have to do a movie. They have to, because we need more community. I want more community. I cannot go on without there not being any more community. I need it. I never talked about a show like this before. But I'm sincere. Like, if they bring him back, like, have him fake his death. That is something he would do. Have him fake his death. Come back. And have some, like, really great character redemption for him. That would be incredible. And the whole thing would just feel so... It would bring everything back to what the first 3 seasons had. Because the first 3 seasons were like that once in a blip kind of thing where just the right people are together at the right time. But again, that's wishful thinking, because if anyone is like a jerk or an asshole, says anything like what Chevy has supposedly said, like, should not be tolerated at all. I just hope that they can find a way to patch things up. And it seems like they have. If you watch interviews with the cast now and with Dan Harmon, like, things seem to be better. So again, I'm really, really hoping. I think those are like the things I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a million other things that I'm gonna remember once I turn this off. Overall, those are like my big thoughts. Like, I freaking adore, like, this show hits so close to home. Overall rating, 4.5 out of 5 Leonians. First 3 seasons, though, that's a perfect 5 out of 5 Leonians. Hands down. Actually, my overall rating, the more likely thing would probably be 4 out of 5 Leonians. Kind of average out the later 3 seasons. Season 5 is fine. But again, it didn't have Chevy Chase. It didn't have Donald Glover. I mean, okay. The first half was great. Like, the scene with Pierce and his bequeathings, that was great. I loved that episode. And Donald Glover's last episode was great. Really, once Chevy and Donald Glover left, you really kind of start to feel it. It's weird. The last 3 seasons are weird. But yeah, this was way longer. I'm sure no one's watched this far, but I guess I have no other way to end this, but